Live? We're live. Okay, welcome everybody. Star Trek, the original series, The Savage Curtain. It's over and has been since 1969, just over 51 years. But we're just getting started here tonight on Live Long and Podcast as we are continuing our original series Rewatch as we pick up random episodes as watched by my dad, Ted. Dad, how'd you like The Savage Curtain?
Well, it was an interesting one for sure. Had lots of weird things going on, but that rock alien guy, that took the cake.
Yeah, he was quite something. We got a great panel here tonight on Live Long and Podcast to break this all down. You've heard from my dad, Ted. Let's hear from my brother, Jeff. Jeff, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. We got Adam Woodward.
Hey, guys.
Doing, Adam?
I'm doing great.
And Jody Simpson.
Good evening.
The Notorious.
The Notorious.
Notorious Jody.
As they say.
Why?
Why? And The Savage Curtain, if the title of the episode doesn't necessarily mean anything to you, this is the episode where Abraham Lincoln shows up to have a battle between good and evil. Well, that's what eventually it will come to be. But there's these aliens who want to know about good and evil, and they're going to put the Kirk and Spock through the rigmarole, if you will. So let's go to Adam. Adam, what did you think about The Savage Curtain?
I didn't want to be first, but I'm going.
Well, but technically, Dad was first. So.
All right, here I go. It started very strange. All right, even for Star Trek, with Abraham Lincoln sitting in space in his chair, 7 years ago. But as the episode got going, I was compelled. I was interested. I liked the relationship between Kirk and Mr. Lincoln. Now, there was some really strange parts in it that we'll get to, including the pile of rock. And, overall, I thought it was a great episode. I quite enjoyed it, much better than Miri, which was my last guest appearance here. So
yes, the rock creature. His name is Yarnak. Just for the record.
Okay.
Jody, let's go to you next. Jody, how do you feel about The Savage Curtain?
Well, I was the one that picked this, I think. It's silly. What more can you really say? I don't even know how to explain this episode. It's like they were trying to really do the whole patriotic route here again, because that's kind of the thing that Star Trek kind of did. And then it just it's almost like they said, okay, well, this is what we want in the episode. And then they kind of shook it up, and then that's what they put in. So it was like Abraham Lincoln, starts it off, but then other people show up, and then we got this shit / rock demon monster thing that steams. So I'm guessing he's some sort of molten rock or something. But trying to explain this episode to anybody without seeing it is kind of hard, I think.
Yeah, okay. And so we're assuming if you're listening tonight or you're watching this on Facebook or YouTube or after the fact, that you have seen the episode. So
they've had 50 years to see it.
51.
51, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're busy. People are busy. Don't always have the time.
It's true.
Now, Jeff, you are a student of American history. And Abraham Lincoln, a pretty pivotal figure in the history of mankind, in the United States specifically. What did you think of the depiction by this particular actor? Do you feel like it was accurate to who Abraham Lincoln was?
Oh, I don't think it's even trying to be. I think it's trying to be more a depiction of how everybody saw Abraham Lincoln. And
it's like the legend of Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah, I think so. More so than it's the actual person to me. They even say in the episode, they go through their minds and find certain characters throughout history, like Kalis and Sirach, and then molded the people out of their images in their head and their thoughts, and right. So it's not completely 100% Abraham Lincoln. But whether or not it's like a true depiction, I think it's more.
Okay,
Like-
I'll rephrase the question. How accurate or inaccurate is this version to who the real person is?
I'd say the real guy was probably a lot more shy. Was a lot more well spoken.
And probably not as dark.
Probably not as dark. And yeah.
Sunny, like
Did you guys notice that he looked a lot like the Lincoln used in Bill and Ted's
He
first
did
movie?
look a lot like that.
Kinda. I also got a little bit of a Lincoln / Planet of the Apes remake vibe from him.
Yes, looks like he kind of looks like what's Kevin Kline in Wild Wild West when he's playing Grant. He lists as Grant, but he kind of looks like that.
Grant, yeah.
Well, he says that he reminds him of Grant. Kirk is just like Grant. And they can drink whiskey together. That's what.
So I read a review online for this as well, because I like to always see what other people say about stuff as well. And one of the things that the guy brought up was they should have called this like Arena 7. Because it's literally the same plot, just
It's kind of okay.
just different people, but same
Slightly
plot.
different because that wasn't about good and evil as much as violent tendencies and
Yeah.
things
Why
of
is
that.
okay? So they see Lincoln in space, right? At the beginning of the episode. Then they they beam Lincoln to the ship. But first they say, hey, no, we got to get into our nice dress uniforms. Scotty's got to break out the tartan. Why?
He's
were
a
they not
president.
Because
He's
they're
a pres-
receiving a
He
president.
was floating in space.
It's clearly the real one.
in a chair.
you got to remember one thing
Yeah,
is
yeah,
that when
sure, too.
Kirk got his Canada 1967 Expo shirt on, that which is the
love
same logo, right?
It is the same logo.
I think they stole it from that episode, which is kind of shocking. And
It's
Spock had
very-
his, Christmas
very
tree
close.
logo on.
Wait. What are you referencing? I'm not.
He's talking about the medals on the dress uniform.
Yeah, I don't.
Bring that up, Dave?
On which? Whose uniform in particular?
Kirk's.
Kirk.
Kirk's. Okay.
So Kirk has all those little tiny triangles.
Couldn't play the episode while the podcast is going. I have it muted, but he gets distracted. Nichelle Nichols also on the bridge when Lincoln is there. She is like, "This is Lincoln." Like, she's pretty. She's pretty like
Pretty happy about it.
pretty happy about it. It's pretty. She's like, "This is pretty awesome."
Right.
Clearly, he's a figure
no,
that she admires.
Little does she know that Abraham Lincoln in real life probably would not have treated her very well. Yeah,
That was kind of what I was alluding to with the question, with the how accurate was this version of Lincoln? So look, but I think it's also as what sort of the perception of Abraham Lincoln was in 1969, right?
100 years after he was killed, absolutely.
Yeah.
History was very favorable to Lincoln, still is.
Just to look at the dress uniform, Dad, because since you asked for it, this is the his decorative medals.
It does look-
He's chunkier in season 3 too.
He is way chunkier in season 3. Yes, he is heavier. He's drinking hard at this point because he's the horses.
You can see the wrap that underneath his uniform to keep him all in.
He's barely in that shirt.
Yeah, his hair is getting greasier. There's a few things going on with
I
William
noticed
Shatner.
that too. The whole bridge crew definitely had longer hair, and they're definitely grew in the '60s for sure. With the sideburns and whatnot.
Yeah. Kirk is heavier, and the hair is getting longer. It's a little greasier. I don't know what the next couple seasons would have been, but famously, William Shatner this was a rough point in his life, particularly this third season, and especially after the show was canceled. And
He was on what, second mistress by that point?
yeah, it was.
Oh, no.
It was, part of the reason his marriage broke down was because he was working long hours on this show. He went on to be married 3 more times, I think it was. But so there's more to it. But yeah, there's you can see that, and this is really near the end of season 3. This is really near the end of it when the show was producing. This is, I think, one of the last episodes written by Gene Roddenberry as well.
I don't know.
And who was having an affair with Nichelle Nichols. And so just to go,
Well, it's the last time you see all the cast together, right?
is this episode the last time like they're kind of all together, like Chekhov, Sulu, all them? Yeah,
Yeah,
and
Scotty's not in any more episodes, and then Michelle Nichols is missing from one of the episodes as well.
and the thing is that I do like the interaction. I do like sort of the message behind the interaction between Lincoln and Uhura, this Lincoln copy, because he calls her a charming negress, which and then it's not a nice term.
I was hoping you were going to bring that up.
Well, it's important but I think what her response is that in my century we've learned not to fear words, and Kirk says, we've learned to be delighted in what we are and who we are, right? And it doesn't have to be sort of ignored. It doesn't all have to be uniform in terms of, and so that's the message here. She's like, whatever, I'm not going to, you're not going to hurt me with what you're saying. If you want to, it's all about how you're going to be perceived, right? And so he walks it back like right away. But I guess this is what Kirk imagines that Lincoln would say, because this is not Lincoln. This is Kirk's idealistic Lincoln, right? So it was kind of interesting because they're kind of like showing what the contrast is between the 19th century and the 23rd century.
Yeah, it's a good message. I mean, to have, and it's interesting that it's coming from like Nichelle Nichols' character as well.
Mm-hmm.
That it's not coming from Lincoln or Kirk. So I applaud. That's what Star Trek does. They make you think about things like that and make you think. Yeah, like you have to not be afraid of things or.
Well, I think she could have jumped down his throat, or she could have said, you're whatever, but she doesn't, right? Like
No.
That's not how Roddenberry wrote the scene. Roddenberry was like, no, what you say doesn't change who I am, right? And who I think I am.
Well, it's a good message that would be nice if people would learn now, even.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I think it's relevant to today. Yeah. So it's one of the better. I think it's one of the more Star Trek moments of this episode. But and then after they have this pomp and circumstance, they eventually get to the conference room where Scotty and McCoy really try to talk them from going down to the planet, because that's been sort of the invitation that's been given. And they're like, you're crazy. Like they obviously are like hiding something from us. Like they're trying to get us down to the planet for some nefarious cause. Adam, why do you think Kirk and Spock choose to go, and was it right to go down to this planet?
Because that's what they do.
Because there was 25 minutes left.
I think I know why. I think it's because they put their dress uniforms on, and by goddamn, they were going to go on a mission.
Yeah, at this point, they went through all the trouble.
Look, they're in the spirit of Star Trek, they're explorers. If something presents themselves, they got to go down on the planet and see what's going on. Especially a planet that is inhospitable to life. Why all of a sudden can they go down there? Wouldn't you be curious? Of course you would. So let's go.
Even with the fear that you might materialize in a pool of molten lava.
Well, didn't they have that continent that developed?
They did, but Scotty and
but that was
McCoy are
part
very
of it,
skeptical, right? They're like, well, just because that's what our sensors are saying doesn't mean it's true.
That's what we see, Captain.
Our scanners
tell us
that this guy who was floating in space in a chair is human, but there's no way a human would be floating in space in a chair. So they know that there's something up, and that this could be dangerous.
But yet they were okay to put on dress uniforms for a floating man in space.
Yes, that's the whole point. Is that they put on dress uniforms and
they change out of the dress.
And they had guns pointed at them.
And they were like, you know what? We're wearing these stupid things, so we might as well get on the planet, so we don't got to wear these stupid things anymore.
But here's a question though for you guys. Like, do you think that we know, like Lincoln and the rest of them really believe they were who they were?
It seems to be. It seems to be.
You get that impression. Yeah.
I think at the beginning they're like, these people are definitely not who they say they are, and then they want you and the characters to believe that they are the people they say they are, and then.
But when you get further into the episode and you meet Colonel Green,
yes,
there's that pleasant conversation between him and Kirk, which, tell me about your past. I don't remember it, and I have a remarkable memory, but I don't remember it. But I think I want to get back to wherever I came from.
Maybe it's Donald Trump.
Yeah, I watched this episode after I watched the debate last night. By the way,
Did this bring your spirits up?
yes,
Yeah,
Lincoln,
okay.
Lincoln in this debate had a better face on than Trump.
yeah.
Yeah, even with that fake lip he was wearing or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that they're like almost like holodeck characters, right? They're almost like they're not as conscious of the sort of the bigger plot.
Is this a holodeck episode before the holodeck?
Well, you got a very good Moriarty vibe there, didn't you, from Lincoln, because he believed who he was, and Moriarty the same thing. He eventually clued into the fact that he was this being in this environment in Next Gen, but in reality, that's kind of where he thought he was originally, right? Was that he's like, why am I here, kind of thing. So same idea.
But once they get down to this planet, their tricorders and their phasers are removed, but they're allowed to keep their communicators.
Yeah, I thought that was a little odd.
So they'll be able to call up the ship.
But they were disabled, so if they had the ability to disable the communications, could they not disable everything else that they were bringing with them?
Yeah, it seems like they can turn those devices on and off. They could have turned the phasers off, but they make a point to not let those transport, or at least this creature, Yarnak. And so once they get down there, Yarnak reveals himself. They don't materialize in the pool of lava. It turns out that the atmosphere of this 1,000 square kilometers has been set aside.
Well, they run into Surak first, right?
They run into Surak first, yeah. So this is Spock's version of Lincoln. This is his idealistic person. He's the father of Vulcan philosophy, right? And he's from
Aristotle.
Yeah, he's kind of like
Same idea.
He's almost like Vulcan Jesus. He's kind of like a
Vulcan Jesus. That's amazing.
He's a messiah figure in Vulcan society.
He's like the Buddha of Vulcan.
He's like the Muhammad.
What it would have been interesting though if they had spent more time on him, because everybody knows who Lincoln is, and we know who Lincoln is. You don't have to tell us the background and give more. I would have liked to learn more about Surak. I mean, this isn't the first time he's introduced, is he?
One of the first. I think it might be.
Yeah.
I think he's mentioned before though.
Maybe if he is, I'm not. I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And the Vulcans, they expand on this later in Star Trek. They kind of talk about how basically this is where the Vulcans and the Romulans kind of went separate ways. Where when Surak came along and sort of brought peace to Vulcan, and a lot of the Vulcans didn't embrace that, and they ended up becoming the Romulans. But they left the planet. But Surak was sort of the one who brought them under this logical philosophy that saved their world from destruction, from civil war. And so he's I guess he's more similar to a Gandhi or somebody who's like a philosophical, spiritual leader. While being secular.
But when Spock met him though, he showed emotion, and it was a surprise, and Surak called him out on it right away too, which was kind of funny. You're betrayed. Your emotions betray you.
Yeah.
Right. Because that's what Spock expects of him.
Now, wouldn't this be way cooler if it was like they go down there and they have to fight Surak? Like, to me, that would have been neat.
Surak doesn't fight though.
Yeah. He was a bad team member for them.
Yeah, well, he was a shitty team member.
I mean, if they strapped a bomb to him, that might have worked.
Maybe.
That wouldn't be the good guy's way, Jeff.
Thing that I thought was interesting is there's a scene where Spock and Kirk are together, and Spock is like making his spear, and he's got the spear, and he's making a really good point on it. And then you see Kirk, and Kirk has basically done nothing. He's got basically this branch that he's done nothing with, and it's like, are you expecting Spock to just do the work here? Like, what's going on?
And then that spear that he took so long to make, he threw it away. A really bad shot at somebody. Like, he spent all that time on it. He kind of wasted it.
I don't care how pointy your damn spear is. It has to have some weight to it. If it doesn't have weight, it's not going to do anything. Like, throwing it really isn't going to help.
Can we talk about what this rock creature looks like?
Yes.
He looks like a Golgothan before
You mean
Golgothan.
Yarnik? Our
Yes.
good old friend Yarnik?
He has about like 9 eyeballs.
So I was
Like-
watching this with my daughter because my daughter and I were watching this at the same time. Oh, we're gonna bring up a picture of him.
Yeah.
There he is. And I was
Proportions are going on there. Like
Yeah.
where is
He's pear-shaped.
he's not pear-shaped. He's like, I don't even know what it is.
I
Like
his hand.
he's like a mushroom on a pile of shit. That's
I
basically
think
what he
it's
is.
just enough paper mache to get a guy in there to hold a light
Yeah.
and turn it around.
It was
I mean,
hilarious.
Like when you first saw this, were you intimidated by at all by this thing? Like the thing obviously can't
You were
run
in
very fast.
it looks
In
like
1969, it scared the bejeebers out of you.
it looks like
And it-
something that came out of somebody's butt. I mean, that's what it looks like.
Well, and it was funny because I was watching this with my daughter, and my daughter's like, "Why is there a shit demon?"
Yeah, it's a shit team.
And I'm like,
It's
I'm
like,
I've
I don't
seen
think
too
it's
much,
supposed to be. I
uh,
think it's supposed to be
technology
rock.
and all that stuff and makeup. Back then, they didn't have any.
It also sort of looks like toffee.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I think it's just it was weird. The arms are what always makes me laugh with it because there's clearly like some kind of a
Yeah.
performer inside of it, and he's just like, "Behold, look at the evil aliens! Oh, I have gotten to fight you, or
Yeah.
whatever."
Well, the pinchers didn't make sense. What were the pinchers for? The white pinchers.
It reminded me of like a T-Rex where you got this big badass thing and these little tiny arms.
Well, this is so he can work his little magic. His
It's like, watch
this
my
is how I make an
claws."
Abraham Lincoln.
He needed
Ah.
to disable their communicators with something, and he
Like they had more budget this episode because they did have the steam coming off every episode.
With the steam. I don't.
If we ever do a best of clip show, Dave, I definitely want that clip of what you just did in the show. I'm just saying.
Ah.
Reminds me of the penguin from Batman Returns.
Yeah, just
Maybe
every
Danny
time-
DeVito's in there.
every time that performer moves the arms, I'm just like, this is hilarious, right? And so it's not the most intimidating thing. No, I don't know if it's meant to be. It's
The fact that it steams though is pretty neat.
Kirk tries to go up to punch it, and he burns his hand.
Yeah.
Burns his hand.
Yeah.
He's like, "Ow!"
That'll
You're
teach
made of
Kirk.
lava?
he's like a hot toffee demon thing.
Yeah.
Shit demon.
Shit. Yes. What about you think about his plot? His whole plot to understand good and evil.
But this is another Star Trek theme. I mean, whether
Arena.
being tested by Arena.
Kirk was split into two. We haven't covered this that episode, but when he split into two people from the transporter into the good and evil version of himself,
We should
Yeah.
do that.
we should do that one. But yeah,
This episode is, to me, is less about good and evil and more about history and like not letting history repeat itself, and then using people throughout history in different ways and learning from their lessons and applying it to modern day or like a simple problem. That's kind of what I take from the episode.
Yeah, the
Well-
message is more important in this one, I think, for sure.
what does everyone think about the team of villains? This
I like that.
society of villains. Yeah, Adam. Like in terms of that they unveil it.
An all-star team of villains, Dave. An all-star team.
Well, what team would win? The Batman All-Star team of villains from 1966 Batman, or this team?
Adam, over to you.
Again, way more introductions needed. I needed to know more about Colonel Green. I want to know. I know who Genghis Khan is. Didn't really consider him evil. He just was. And then Zora, again, explain to me what she did. Like she's a mad scientist or something.
Yeah, like a little bit of backstory would have been nice.
Yeah, it would have
And
been.
they had time. They had time in this episode. For
They
all
also
that.
had Kalis.
This is the unveiling of Kalis, and
Yeah, but
he's
we know what Kalis is if you stayed with it, right? So, help me, Spock.
right. Well, and I think that the whole thing about this team of villains is, especially if you're watching this in 1969, is that the only one you're gonna know is Genghis Khan, right? Because he's the only actual historical figure. The female villain there, Lemmy, what's her? Zora. Like she's from Tiburon, so she's from our future, the past of of Kirk and Spock. The same thing with Colonel Green, and Kalis is a Klingon version of Surak, basically, and he's the kind of the father of Klingon society. But these are all them as they are perceived in the mind of Kirk and maybe Spock. They're not even true representations of who these people are any more than Lincoln is a true representation of Lincoln. They're more abstracts of these people.
Seems like it. But there's a lot of detail there too, though.
Yeah.
There is. Kalis. Okay, Kalis is not even wearing. I understand that he's in the 23rd century Klingon makeup without the ridges, but he's also wearing the 23rd century Klingon uniform, which doesn't track.
I thought that depicting an image of Kalis was like you'd be killed for such a thing.
You think it's blasphemy?
Yeah, you know that. Not
The Klingons are coming to get you, Yarnik.
You can't depict the image of Kalis.
Of Kalis. We see Kalis. I'm doing my computer.
You dishonor him.
Dishonor Kalis. We see Kalis. Yeah, but this is, I think, the first mention of Kalis, who will in Star Trek will become. He's basically that's all Klingons ever want to talk about is Kalis. He's the one who fought the Herc. He's the one who united the Klingon houses and formed the Empire. So, but he clearly, but as they say, Yarnik says, he's the one who kind of set them on their violent ways too, conquest, and bloodshed.
I like the one moment in this episode when, I think Jody was just alluding to it, with Kalis was going, "Help me, Kirk! Help me, Spock!" Like he was crying out in agony, and Spock's like, "A Vulcan would not cry out. We're not gonna go over there. This is stupid." Kirk's like, "Let's just go fight that thing with a stick."
How can you listen to him scream like that?
How could you? Yeah, I will not sit here and listen to him. I'm going to grab this stick that's way too flimsy and go over there and do something about it. And Spock's like, "No." And this to me is a good contrast of like the difference between Kirk and Spock. Spock is smart. Kirk is dumb.
Kirk identified the high ground. He got a perfect perch. Let's wait for them to come to us. And he's not acting again very captain-like when he does stuff like this.
He is trained in military strategy, right? He is a captain of a starship.
Yes, and he's a fan of Lincoln. So Lincoln was, a commander-in-chief during a war. So you think
was Lincoln in the military?
I don't believe so. No, he was a lawyer, but he was the commander-in-chief, so he would have been very in charge. He fired a lot of generals.
Fired.
Yeah, fired generals. Yeah, hired and
for
fired.
Trump.
Yeah, maybe well.
I don't mean that.
Lincoln and Trump.
Next, Trump's going to be on TV going, "I have a rocket space chair."
Yeah. He's going to be in the middle of space, floating around.
Yeah.
Space Force.
Well,
Space Force all the way.
Let's talk about just Colonel Green too, because he's this other villain that's introduced in this group of four. That he definitely has the most dialogue of any of them, and he's from the 21st century, so he's from our century, but of that time.
Eugenics wars, I think, right?
He's probably from World War III.
And I think he was in Eugenics Wars.
I think they say Eugenics Wars.
There's a book with Khan fighting against Green, I think.
I think that let me look. So Colonel Green is from, it says the late 20th century, maybe. He might be a contemporary of Khan.
He is, for sure.
Well, Colonel Philip Green, according to Memory Alpha, was. It says that he was 21st century after World War III. He operated, so he was the Spalek militia leader. Oh, he was in that Enterprise episode. Yeah. Okay, they reused the same name and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's more he's from the time of Archer.
He's part of eco-terrorism.
He's an eco-terrorist?
He's an eco-terrorist.
Interesting.
So there's a book, I don't know how many books, but it's about the Eugenics Wars, and it tells the story of a young Khan, Union Singh, right? And he's definitely fighting Green in those books. I remember reading those 5-part series. Yeah.
Well, Green is also a pretty common last name too. So
No, it was,
you know,
it was totally him.
He's
how many
100 years
colonels
before.
there are in the military?
Yeah, but how many
Star
are starting a war?
In Star
Yeah,
Trek,
I think it's the same thing. I think you're right, but I guess there's no way to really tie them. But
Was it Colonel Green in the study with the candlestick? Or
it could have been.
it was Colonel Green in the cave with the poop monster.
Listen, Dave, that's fake news. Fake news, Dave.
in the lava planet with the Excalibur. Yes. So and then this whole battle and everything that's on. But let's just talk about Surak's choice to
Battle, if you call it that.
Yeah, Surak's choice to go offer peace. It says a lot more about the Vulcans and how they got to peace, how they achieved peace. He's like, we just sent people. They kept killing them, and eventually they stopped killing them, and then we had peace.
We had peace.
Is that a good strategy?
It was.
Well, that's it. That's the motto to staying alive in the army. Stay in the rear with the gear.
Right? Was a great plan. Not a big surprise that the villains turn on him, and then they have this plan to spring him, which gets Lincoln killed, and then and the whole thing with how they beat the villains is they fight them. Kirk confronts Colonel Green, sort of. And does he kill him, or he just wrestle him to the ground, or what happens there? And he goes, "That's it. The rest ran away." So that's the end of the fight. But they were still down 4-2, right? They were still losing this fight. I don't understand why.
They're totally losing this fight.
Kahless wouldn't run away.
Evil was clearly winning.
Yeah, Kahless wouldn't have run out of this fight. No way.
Oh,
Yeah, but
I think the shit/rock monster just put an end to it. Maybe that's what happened.
is there
All I
anything-
know is I don't know any more than I did going into the episode than I do when I end the episode.
So
It's one of the-
Rock was trying to make peace with everybody, and they said, "No, we're going to kill you." And
It feels a lot like the episode we reviewed last week, where literally it's like a snapshot in time, but there's no real closure. Like there's not really anything that kind of tells you we're done.
that's what the original series does. And it's
Yeah.
a 50-minute episode. It's like,
Yeah.
what are they wasting their time on?
Yeah.
They wasted a lot of time just showing Lincoln around the ship. Really.
Or Colonel Green crouched down with a stick. There's a lot of that going on in this episode. There's a lot of Scotty just watching. Literally, that was my favorite part about this episode. Was Scotty and Sulu and the bridge crew watching the episode with us from the bridge.
They really were, because the angles, for instance, just don't make any sense. I don't know what the video compression's like in the 23rd century, but it's phenomenal.
Oh, good.
They can't run transporters. They can barely do communication, but yet they can get a really good spot on video
They
image
have
of them.
a full film crew down there with
They must,
Kirk and Spock. Yeah, they're ready to go.
Yeah. But anyway, it is
Jeff,
what it is.
Do you got the facts?
Fun facts.
I can find the facts.
Here, I'll do the jingle this time.
There's probably 50 million fun facts.
Fun facts with Jeff. Doesn't sound like he's ready though, Dave.
I'm almost there. Relax.
I always thought he was ready all the time.
Camera 6.
No!
Come on, Jeff.
No!
Murderers!
Murders! Assassins!
Okay. It's actually not bad.
Assassins!
Adam is currently contemplating his life and how he got here. Adam's like, so there was a time when I wasn't on this podcast.
The Savage Curtain introduces Klingon founding father Kahless and Vulcan founding father Surak to the Star Trek universe. Kahless' history played an important role in several episodes of TNG and Deep Space Nine, where he's regarded as a force for good, contrary to the sentiments expressed here. And Surak's history was crucial to the final season of Enterprise, which also gave a little bit of his backstory to Colonel Philip F. Green. Zora, a Tiburon, is the only historic figure introduced here who was not further developed in the later Star Trek series.
Opportunity. You can develop Zora.
Oh, give
Zora
Kurtzman a couple of minutes. He'll have that in there somewhere.
Zora of Tiburon. Okay, so this is the final episode of the series to feature the entire ensemble cast.
I was right.
Kirk, Spock, McCoy, Scotty, Uhura, Sulu, and Chekhov. As a result, this episode also marks the final appearance of Nichelle Nichols in the series.
Yep. And Scotty is in another episode, but you don't see him.
But
It's just his voice.
That dress uniform of Scotty's was pretty cool.
Remember when we did the hippie episode?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you remember the guy who had the weird ears? He was like the leader of the hippies.
Yes.
He was Tiburonian, as is Zora. They are the same species.
Oh. There you go.
Well, there you go.
There's fun facts with Dave.
Okay.
This marks the second time the original series encounters a silicon-based life form. The first is in Star Trek The Devil in the Dark. Janos Prohaska played both life forms, with Bart LaRue supplying the Excalibane's voice. Okay. The first choice for the role of Lincoln was Mark Leonard, best known for playing Sarek, but prior commitments prohibited him from taking the part.
I'm glad it wasn't him.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd want him.
I think that would have ruined Sarek.
Yeah.
The war that included Colonel Philip Green's atrocities was later decided to be World War III in the middle 21st century, which served as an important MacGuffin in later Star Trek productions such as Star Trek The Next Generation, Encounter at Farpoint, or Star Trek First Contact, and a number of Enterprise episodes.
Hey,
So it is.
Jody, you're a big Enterprise fan, so this is a.
Well, it sounded familiar, but I didn't. I don't like to just call out stuff as fact.
If David just let me get to this fun fact, I would have got to it eventually anyway. Tiburon, home of the cruel scientist Zora, is named after the Spanish word for shark and was also the homeland of Dr. Severin, the villain of the week from Star Trek The Way to Eden.
And Talor.
One of Jody's favorite episodes.
The hippies.
Colonel Green's uniform was recycled into a spacesuit worn by Mork in his appearances on Happy Days and Mork and Mindy.
That's interesting.
I've never seen Morgan, but
You've never seen Mork and Mindy? What's
my
wrong
time.
with you?
Jeff, have you ever seen it?
I've never watched an episode of it, no.
By the way, you're currently on a podcast that has to do with something that was before your time.
True.
I don't know if that's an excuse.
I watched every episode of that show. Mork and Mindy.
Can't say I've watched every episode.
It was
of
never
it,
in
but
syndication when I was growing up. So.
Oh, really? Because I remember coming home from school and it was on. I'm a little bit older than you, though.
When the Burlington, Vermont channels didn't get it. For whatever reason, or I just didn't watch it.
Would you say that's what you like Robin Williams because of Mork and Mindy?
No.
Dave, do you know what Colonel Green's real name is?
The actor? No.
Philip.
No.
Well, that's the character's real name.
No, but
The actor is
it's Edward Featherstone Green. There you go. Fun fact.
There you go.
Philip Pine played.
The appearances of Kalis and Surak mark the final respective appearances of a full Klingon and full Vulcan in the original series.
I never thought Kalis was an impersonator. That was quite funny, too. Can you do Abraham Lincoln?
Yeah.
Can you?
Help me, Kirk, or whatever. And yeah, because when they clone Kalis in The Next Generation, he doesn't have that ability.
No, but it would have been cool if he did. This is the second and final mention in an original series episode that it may be possible to separate the nacelles from the ship, in this case by specifically jettisoning them.
What's the nacelles?
Right. So yeah,
It's the big glowy things.
these things.
The engines.
Right? So you can like pull that off, right?
Oh,
Like, so
okay.
that they never show.
Of course, he had an example to show us.
Yes.
This is okay. Star Trek trading card set gave Colonel Green's full name as Edward Featherstone Green, but this was superseded by the last few episodes of Enterprise, where he was spoken as Philip Green. So they never actually knew his name, and they made it up. They retconned it, and then they came back later and said, "No, this is canon."
Leave it to Enterprise.
Oh, here we go. Here comes the Enterprise hate.
Wait, Dave, you don't like Enterprise?
I'm mixed. I like it more than Kevin.
He's not as bad about it. I've just been shunned for it because I liked Enterprise.
So a lot of Star Trek fans, a lot of within our group here at Live Long and Podcast, they disregard.
Not fans. Yeah, most of them don't even acknowledge it exists.
It's
What? Really?
There's some good episodes, but overall, I don't really love
Season 3 and 4 are fine. I'm not great on the first 2 seasons.
I don't like the cast, but
The cast is not good.
the
cast-
storyline is
Bakula's
great.
not- Bakula, and the way it's just all
The Doctor's good.
Yeah.
The Asian girl's good. That's about it.
T'Pol's good.
T'Pol's good, but for a
T'Pol.
completely different reason.
A different story altogether.
Especially when she's in that decontamination room.
Okay, so Kalis is seen here.
Sorry,
in,
I'm just thinking about that now.
Klingon style typical of the original series. It would seem to contradict the explanation given in Enterprise Divergence for the change in physical appearance of the Klingon, since Kalis lived long before these events. However, since the image of Kalis was drawn from Kirk's and Spock's minds, not from fact, that is not necessarily a contradiction.
Right. I don't think he is. That's what he's wearing, a 23rd century Klingon outfit. He's what they think Kalis was. He's not the real Kalis. So, and they don't know a lot about Kalis.
So, okay, Lincoln tells Kirk in this episode, there is no honorable way to kill, no gentle way to destroy. There is nothing good in war except its ending. This speech, written by a Star Trek screenwriter, has become so popular that people mistakenly believe it to be something that the real Abraham Lincoln said.
Huh. It's nice. It's good. Good set of words.
There's nothing good in war, but it's ending.
This is one of 3 productions in which Genghis Khan and Abraham Lincoln appear together as characters. In spite of the fact that Lincoln was born 582 years after Khan's death. The others are Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure and Clone High.
Right.
Oh, Clone High, the animated series. Yeah.
Is Genghis Khan worthy of being a villain in this group of 4?
No.
He was just a thug. He was just a thug.
To be quite honest, guys, I didn't even realize it was Genghis Khan until you just mentioned it.
I've forgotten it was Genghis Khan later on in the episode because he never spoke or he was just in the background.
He just throws rocks and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, like I wonder why they didn't take well, I guess maybe it was too soon, like a Hitler, for instance, or Stalin. Yeah, something more contemporary. But maybe it was.
They had the Nazi uniforms, so we know they did.
Yeah, they already know they had the Nazi uniforms, so
Yeah.
But
maybe easily threw Hitler in there, or
people then probably Hitler and never killed, right? Genghis Khan was brutal.
Sure. Okay, and finally, William Shatner and Philip Pine, who played Colonel Green, would later guest star together in Mannix: Search for a Whisper, 1973.
The film.
Yes.
I love the character. The guy,
No,
he was
sure.
a typical Mad Men guy. He had that hair, and he just missed his little glass of scotch on the side. It would have been perfect.
I like their dynamic. I agree that the Kirk Green dynamic it's too quick, and you could have seen these two having more to do with each other because they were clearly working well.
And that's it.
That's it. Okay, let's get to ratings.
fun facts.
Ratings. All right, just taking me down.
Fun facts. They're over.
Okay, so I'm going to give this rating first, and I'm going to give this one a 9. Jeff?
You're giving this a 9? Wow.
7.
7.
6.2.
Wow, pretty low. Okay.
Dave, I'm with you. I'm going 9. I was completely entertained with this episode.
And Jeff? Jody.
I'm gonna kind of go in between Ted and Jeff here and do a 6.5.
6.5. All right. So between the 5 of us, that averages out at a 7.5. Above our average of 7.1 for the whole show. And this had a 6.8 on IMDb with, let's just see, about 1,900 people weighing in. So between our score and that score comes out at 7.2. So around the average when you look at those things. So decent.
Hey,
All
Dave.
right. Yeah.
Screen Rant ranked this episode as the 12th worst episode.
I don't think that's fair. I think that this is a good.
I agree with you. I was surprised at that.
So
Who was that ranked that?
Screen Rant.
Oh, Screen Rant. Okay. Yeah, they're
All right. So we look to Dad for our next episode.
The Devil in the Dark. Let's
Oh.
go do rock.
Might as well do it.
The episode that we mentioned in the fun facts.
That's where Kirk is split into the two
There's two crooks.
Kirks. That's called the Devil in the Dark.
No, it's where they go into a mining and there's an underground alien who's
Oh, okay.
miners.
Oh, it's not. It's not the one where he's split.
That's not the one I thought it was.
This is the one where they're fighting the Horta.
The Horta.
Horta.
The Horta.
Yes.
The Horta, and there's the miners. Okay.
Season 1, episode 25.
Oh, back to season 4.
Horta. And the same
Oh, right.
actor, who played what was the last episode? That guy,
Yarnik.
Yarnik. It's the Horta. Same actor.
But yeah, it looks very much the same. It just doesn't have arms.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It doesn't have the.
I guess they added arms. They dug out this from.
It's like a flesh pillow.
They added.
He lay on the ground.
And lights on the head.
Yeah.
Who approved this stuff? Like, we've spent 10 grand on it already. We gotta go with it.
Some sort of coked up executives over at CBS or Paramount.
NBC
or
at the time.
NBC, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll be back next week, next Wednesday, for the Devil in the Dark, another rock alien thing. We'll see how that
I'm
goes.
sensing a trend.
Dad likes these weird alien things in funny.
Well, I think I picked this one, didn't I? Or did I pick
You
one
this
before
one.
this?
And Jody, I liked it more than you, so then thank you.
I liked it a lot. Yeah. That was great.
I only briefly remembered the Abraham Lincoln thing. That's the only reason why I picked it.
You know what, though? Just one more comment on this episode before you get.
Absolutely.
Like, you consider, again, I just think about all the next gen episodes that may have been inspired by this episode. You talked about Colonel Green and Counter.
You mean the first 2 seasons of Next Gen?
It was good. Actually, no, it was a good episode.
Well, you know what? And like, this may mean something to some of you. Where like, I remember seeing there was an episode of Spider-Man, the animated series from the 1990s that I grew up watching, and there was a whole arc in that show called the Secret Wars, which is based on a comic book arc from the 80s in Marvel, where basically this guy called the Beyonder, he takes all the villains from the Marvel universe and all the heroes, and he throws them on sort of a planet, and he makes them have a big battle. And I feel like that this episode could have had a major influence on that story that they went on to do in the comics, which was a big one in history.
Well, there's no doubt that Star Trek inspired a lot of things. So
But
there's
how
definitely
many,
no doubt there.
I mean, if we broke it down, how many episodes have been an alien race testing the crew?
In Next Gen alone, I would say 10.
Right. Okay.
Well, that's the whole thing with this. I don't know if you've been watching Lower Decks yet, Adam.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, even Lower Deck has it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the last episode of Lower Decks was sort of like one of these tests.
Yeah.
It was. Fair. It's one of the go-to episodes where some aliens that the crew can't resist are going to make them do something they don't want, and they're not going to be happy with it.
By the way, Dave, I'm just going to give you a quick update on Lower Decks. It's starting to grow on me a little.
Right. We're going to do a wrap-up after we finish all the episodes. So,
Oh, yeah, good.
but so just to plug all our other shows and everything else, as we have to go off here.
You should have a banner that says plug time down at the bottom.
plug time. I should get the plug time.
That'd be awesome. Anyway.
Live Long and Podcast. We're here 4 times a week. Tuesdays, Deep Space Nine. We're in 2nd season right now. Here on Wednesdays, we do
Bless
original series, which we kind of pick random episodes. Thursdays, we're doing Star Trek Lower Decks just for 2 more weeks until that is wrapped up. And then we're going to be heading on to Star Trek Discovery. Right, Adam?
Yes.
Season 3.
I've never heard anybody that enthusiastic about Discovery, but okay.
Oh, you guys.
Yes. Also, on Star Trek Radio Theater, which we do on Saturdays, usually, or Fridays sometimes, we're going to be doing an episode from Next Generation called Sub Rosa, where Beverly Crusher has sex with a space ghost coming out of a candle. So I will be playing Beverly Crusher. Oh, man! And
You have your wife playing a corpse?
I have, an old lady corpse, yes. Yes,
man.
she's playing my grandmother's corpse in this case. So, yeah, so we got it. You can see up, if you're looking at her on screen, you can kind of see like the roles and everything that's going on. But yeah, so that's going to be on Saturday night as we continue with that.
And to be clear, that's a parody interpretation of the episode.
It's a parody interpretation. It's not
Yeah.
it's not a complete dramatic reenactment.
Because I'm pretty sure you're not going to sound like Beverly Crusher.
I think I do.
Oh, okay.
But no,
I can't wait.
it's not really based on Beverly Crusher. And yeah, so check all that out. Our other channel's called Trivial Debates, where we do once a month we do a fight with movies, TV, sports, and more. Jody, Jeff, and I just came off of our big battle royale on that, so check out that channel. And then Super Mater Brothers Podcasting is our third channel, where Jeff and I and Jaemeel cover Big Brother 3 times a week, Sundays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. Actually, I have to go watch Big Brother right now. Tomorrow is going to be the triple eviction if you're watching Big Brother, so make sure to check that. That's a big night tomorrow night. We're going to be doing 2 hours. So anyway,
It's getting to the point that you should just be your own channel.
well, we do have
There's so many episodes of things.
there's so many things. There's so many podcasts.
There's so much entertainment at the Dave Mater podcasting and Jeff
Sure.
Mater podcasting.
Super Mater Brothers Podcasting Inc.
Super Mater Brothers. That's what I'm going for. Yeah.
There you go. All right. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Adam, Jeff, Dad, and Jody. We're going to sign off for the night, and we'll talk to you next week for The Devil in the Dark. Take care. Podcast.
You guys.